The arrival. Opening invitation. Welcome to a story of flight. Not the kind that begins at an airport, but the kind that begins in the heart of a man who has spent his life learning how to fall and how to rise. This is the story of an athlete who arrived in Italy not only to compete, but to chase history. The airplane descended through a blanket of white clouds. Below them, the Alps rose like silent giants. Snow covered the peaks in soft gold light. Italy in winter looked unreal. Sharp ridges, quiet valleys, villages that seemed painted onto the mountainside. Inside the plane sat Marcus, Olympic ski jumper, 32 years old. This was not his first Olympic Games, but it might be his last. He watched the mountains through the window, the same mountains he had trained in since childhood, the same cold air, the same silence before the jump. But this was different. This was the Olympics. When he stepped off the plane in Milan, the air was crisp. Journalists waited behind barriers. Cameras flashed. Flags waved. Oro, one Italian reporter asked with a smile. Gold. Adrian smiled politely. We will see. The Olympic village in northern Italy was alive. Flags from every nation lined the streets. Athletes walked in jackets with their country's colors. Snow trucks moved slowly between training facilities. Inside his room, Adrian unpacked carefully. Ski suit, helmet, gloves, lucky scarf from his first World Cup podium. He touched the skis gently. They were more than equipment. They were memory, preparation. Training began the next morning. The Olympic ski jump towered above the valley like a steel cathedral. The in-run glistened under artificial frost. Below, the landing hill stretched out in a perfect white curve. Adrian stood at the top platform. The world went quiet. Only wind, only breath, only heartbeat. He pushed forward. The skis slid down the in-run. Speed increased. 80 kilometers per hour, 90, 95. At the edge, takeoff. He flew. In those seconds, gravity disappeared. He landed smoothly at 132 meters. Not perfect, but strong. His coach nodded. Timing is good, but you're holding tension. Adrian knew. He was not fighting the hill. He was fighting expectation. The pressure. Media attention grew each day. Italy loved ski jumping. The stadium filled even during training sessions. Children asked for autographs. Fans wore scarves with his name. At night, Adrian lay awake. He had silver from 4 years ago. Silver still burned. Second place is close enough to see gold, but not touch it. This time, he wanted more. Not for fame, for peace. Qualification day. Snow fell lightly. The stadium roared. One jump to qualify for the final. Adrian waited at the top. The announcer's voice echoed through the valley. From Poland, Adrian Nowak. He slid forward. Speed. Silence. Takeoff. Perfect angle. Wind under his skis lifted him gently. He flew longer than during training. He landed at 138 meters. The crowd exploded. First place in qualification. But qualification means nothing tomorrow. Tomorrow is history. He walked back to the locker room alone. He looked at his reflection in the mirror. This is it, he whispered. Outside, the Italian mountains stood quiet, waiting, The final battle. Morning arrived like a held breath. The Olympic Stadium in northern Italy shimmered under a pale winter sun. 40,000 spectators filled the stands. Flags waved in red, white, blue, yellow. Drums echoed. Cowbells rang. The mountain air carried electricity. This was the day. Adrian stood in the warm-up zone, headphones on, eyes closed. He did not listen to music. He listened to himself, to his breathing, to the quiet inside the noise. The final would consist of 2 jumps, 2 chances, for years of training reduced to less than 20 seconds of flight. First round. The wind was unstable. Athletes before him struggled. One strong jumper landed short at 125 meters. Another lost balance on landing. The judges were strict. The conditions were unforgiving. Then came the surprise. A young Norwegian, only 22 years old, flew 141 meters. Clean, aggressive, fearless. The stadium gasped. That is the mark, Adrian's coach said quietly. Adrian nodded. His turn came. From Poland. Marcus. The stadium noise faded. He sat on the start bar. Gloves tight. Skis aligned. Wind check. Green light. Push. The in-run accelerated beneath him. The steel track hummed under his skis. His body stayed low. Compact. Controlled. At the edge, he exploded upward. Takeoff was clean. Sharp. Confident. For a moment, he felt it. Perfect balance. He flew. The hill opened beneath him like a wide ocean. The wind supported him. He adjusted slightly in the air, subtle correction, invisible to most. Landing. 137.5 meters. Not the longest, but smooth. Style points were high. When the scores appeared, the stadium reacted. Second place. Only 1.8 points behind the Norwegian. It was close. Very close. But Olympic finals are not won in the first jump. They are survived. Between the jumps. Back inside the preparation room, silence replaced noise. The television replayed every flight. Adrian watched his own jump. He saw it clearly now. He had slightly delayed the takeoff by a fraction of a second. A fraction. In ski jumping, a fraction is distance. His coach leaned in. More aggression at the edge. Trust it. Adrian exhaled slowly. Outside, snow began to fall lightly again. Wind flags fluttered nervously. The second round would decide everything. Final jump order. The top 30 advanced. Adrian would jump second to last. The Norwegian leader would go last. The tension built with each athlete. Some improved. Some collapsed under pressure. The hill grew faster as the temperature dropped. Finally, only 2 names remained. The Norwegian, Marcus. But Adrian would go first. The last flight. He climbed the steps alone. Each step echoed. The stadium stood. He could hear nothing clearly now. Only heartbeat. At the top, he looked down the in-run one last time. He did not think of silver. He did not think of gold. He thought of his first jump as a child. The small wooden hill. His father's voice, fly free. Wind check. Green light. Push. Faster than before. He stayed low. Calm. Explosive. At the takeoff table, he committed. No hesitation. His body extended perfectly into the air. This was different. This was flight without fear. He felt lift immediately. The skis cut through cold air like wings. He stayed still, balanced, efficient. The hill passed beneath him. Longer, further, further. Landing line approached. He held it. Telemark landing. Clean. The stadium exploded. Distance flashed on screen. 142.5 meters. Personal best on this hill. Judges' scores climbed. 18.5, 19, 18.5, 19, 19. Total points appeared. He moved into first place. Now only one man remained. The Norwegian sat at the top. He needed 140 meters to win. The entire stadium held its breath. Push. He launched aggressively. But the wind shifted. Just slightly. Not dramatic. But enough. He landed at 138 meters. A small wobble. Style points lower. The scoreboard updated. Silence. Then, Marcus, Olympic champion. The stadium erupted like thunder rolling through mountains. Adrian dropped to his knees in the snow, not shouting, not jumping, just breathing. Gold. Gold in the Italian night. For a moment, Marcus did not move. The noise in the stadium felt distant, like waves crashing far away. Snowflakes fell slowly around him. The world had shifted, not loudly, not dramatically, but completely. Olympic champion. The words echoed inside his chest. His coach reached him first, pulling him into an embrace so tight it almost hurt. "You flew," the coach whispered. Adrian smiled. "I finally let go." Around them, photographers knelt in the snow. Cameras flashed. Flags waved wildly in the stands. Polish fans sang. Italian fans applauded with warmth and respect. Even the Norwegian athlete walked over. He extended his hand. "You were better today," he said honestly. Marcus shook it firmly. "You made me better. That is sport, not war, but elevation." The ceremony. Night fell over the Alps quickly. The stadium lights turned the snow silver. The mountains stood black against a deep blue sky. The temperature dropped, but no one left. Medal ceremony. Marcus stood behind the curtain, wearing his national jacket. The gold medal waited on a small velvet pillow. He felt calm now, strangely calm. When they called his name, he stepped forward. The podium felt higher than expected. Third place stepped up. Second place. Then, gold medal. Marcus. He climbed to the highest platform. From up there, the stadium looked endless. Thousands of faces. Thousands of stories. The medal was placed around his neck. It was heavier than he imagined. The Italian presenter smiled warmly. "Bravo." Then came the anthem. His country's flag rose slowly into the cold night sky. Adrian did not sing loudly. He closed his eyes. He thought of early mornings, frozen fingers, long training days, small hills and small towns. His father watching from the side. His first fall. His first victory. The anthem ended. The crowd roared again. He opened his eyes. This time, he allowed himself to smile fully. Not because he had won, but because he had become complete. After the lights. Later that night, long after interviews and congratulations, Adrian walked alone outside the Olympic Village. The mountains were quiet again, just as they had been when he arrived. He touched the metal once more. It felt real, but it did not define him. He understood something now that no camera could capture. Gold is not flight. Flight is flight. The metal is memory. The jump is truth. He sat on a bench overlooking the valley. Snow sparkled under moonlight. He took out his phone and sent a simple message to his father. "We did it." A reply came quickly. "I knew you would." Marcus looked up at the stars. Tomorrow, the world would talk. But tonight, the mountains listened. Closing words. This was not only a story about distance, not only about meters measured in snow. It was a story about courage at the edge of fear, about trusting the moment, about flying not to escape gravity, but to meet it with strength. Thank you for being part of this journey, for standing in the cold air, for holding your breath at the edge, and for believing that sometimes a man can rise above the hill, above the noise, and land exactly where he was meant to be.